Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 12 of the Noor Podcast. Today we have Alex and some of his artists here today, and we just had an amazing discussion on the music industry in Adelaide, what it's like to be a producer and produce music and be in the creative music scene here. And we actually went a lot into kind of the music industry in general around the world, some of the challenges, how to break through as an artist, and just had a really, really good chat. We honestly, one of the best podcasts we've shot, and the guests were just so good at articulating themselves and had an amazing conversation. If you're definitely starting up in the music industry here in Adelaide or anywhere in the world, definitely 100% worth a listen. And I know that everyone's going to enjoy it. How you guys doing? Good?
Yeah.
All right,
How are you?
So, I'm good. Do you want to just start off with, let's do an intro of each of you.
Yep.
Your name, kind of what you do in Adelaide and what you do in general.
Yeah.
And then we'll jump right into the questions.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm Alex. I'm the founder and business owner of Kargo. But yeah, that's obviously the basis of why we're kind of here today and what we're talking about. But yeah, at this point in time, I produce music under Sasha Knight. That's kind of the main name that I went with initially. And then as time has gone on, I've just diversified and made an electronic profile, which is Sasha Said So. And Kargo was a platform that I kind of created to be able to distribute my own music, which has then been able to support and be the platform for other artists to be able to do the same. Sam and Ethan, I'll obviously allow them to introduce themselves. I'm not going to say anything further, but they've been a major reason as to why I do this. And yeah, they've helped form the backbone of what this is. So yeah. I guess when we sit back and say, you know, the artists and who's part of it, they are the artists, but I guess this is the core team of who we are and what we're doing at the moment.
So you mentioned Kargo and then the name as well. So what is Kargo?
Yeah. So Kargo Entertainment is the record label.
Yeah.
That is the basis for where we release music. We've run some successful events. And that's also where we release our Kargo Selects, which is the YouTube channel at this point in time.
Cool.
So yeah, it's just been able to formulate that business and create it into a little bit of a multifaceted platform in which we can not only just release music, but have some events, run a YouTube channel, and also that's where we're releasing our music videos and just managing all the other creative outlets that we're doing at the moment.
I think it's like a good umbrella just to be able to put all of our interest from like events, like you said, music, just like an umbrella company just to sort of encompass all of that under one name.
Yeah.
And also have it be like a business as well.
Yeah.
Is the thing. So it's like, but I think that's the thing with creative industries. Like nobody really gets a lot of money. You know what I mean? That's a big issue right now. So I think what it is like, it allows us to do all the creative stuff that we want to do, but in a professional way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I think it also gives opportunity as well for us. Obviously, at this point in time, you could still say that we're in, the baby years of the business.
How long has it been?
I think it was about. That's a good question, actually. I think about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah, almost
After
2
COVID?
years. After COVID, yeah. But what it's kind of done, at least in those baby years, is set up the foundation for an independent record label to be able to make some form of capital and income that is going to be the basis for some form of consistent outcome.
Yeah.
Because because at the end of the day, you talk about record labels and all that kind of stuff. I think the core value of what Kargo is being able to own the music that you distribute through the label at the end of the day. It's not that we're owning 100% or anything like that. The artists that are just distributing it, they end up owning 100% of that. And so that's obviously something that through the business evolving is going to be something that when other people jump on board, it may be something that we evolve from, but that is going to be the core basis of the business, is focusing on giving all the profit back to the artist.
How does Kargo
and keeping
make money?
do that through the other avenues. So predominantly the events. And then obviously I guess you could say YouTube is a income stream, but that is more of a long-term thing, of course, that we're just
makes sense.
building up. But short-term, it's the events.
Yeah. And then you said Sasha.
So Sasha Said So is my electronic producer
So that's
name.
you personally. As
That's
an
me
artist.
personally. And then Sasha Knight as well. So I make trap music under Sasha Knight.
2 aliases.
2 aliases. Confusing it for you. But like
Yeah.
Sasha Knight makes like trap hip hop, and then Sasha Said So is electronic.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
So it just allows you to kind of distinguish the two and
Yeah.
keep them separate.
Where do
But
you publish?
Also Spotify. Everywhere.
All
Apple
streaming
Music.
platforms.
Yeah, everywhere. But
Anyway.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex.
No, that's okay.
All right. What about you?
My name is Samuel, aka Samuelson. And yeah, I make music. I do graphic design as well. And then I help out with the creative direction on Kargo. But yeah, I've been making music since I was like maybe 12 years old. I got, you remember how they had those Wii's with the karaoke mics? Yeah. Like, I would plug that into my laptop on Garage Pro when I was in high school. And I would just make all these songs, put them on SoundCloud. And then through that, I grew up next door to Ethan. We were next door neighbors when we were growing up. So we'd be like at home every day just making music after school, just linking up. And it's kind of evolved from there. I dropped my first album last year, On My Way, which was kind of more of a rap style. But yeah, now I've kind of just been taking a step back, working with Alex on the events. And then I've just started like a band as well. So I've branched out, making more sort of like reggae instrumental music. Cause yeah, I've spent, most of my music is like hip hop, but I also study at Adelaide Uni, and I've been playing like in multiple instruments throughout school and all my life.
What are you studying at Adelaide Uni?
I'm studying music.
I see.
So it's like, so that's more, but when I'm at uni, I'm playing guitar and then
Yeah.
playing instruments and stuff I enjoy to do. But then in my own music, I was more just like rapping and just like on amps and making beats. But now it's like,
What do you enjoy more?
100% playing live instruments and like,
Really? You enjoy that more?
yeah, because it's just, I talk about this all the time, like the feeling if you were to stand there and perform with a microphone is like cool. But then if you were to stand there and perform with like a guitar or a bass or like something and like actually play, it's just a completely different way of like making music, and to me it's way more fulfilling. Yeah. So that's why now I've kind of like moved away from the rap stuff for a bit.
Yeah, I see.
Focusing more on my band,
amazing.
making like just chiller sort of like stuff you can kick back to, like summer sort of stuff.
That's good. I mean, it sounds like you already have like a good, diverse type of music on this label.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, like,
one specific
That's one of
genre.
the major strengths.
That was the main
Yeah.
point
For sure.
that we wanted. That's kind of what we
Again,
wanted.
coming back to the umbrella that like
Yeah.
everyone sort of can do their own thing, but it can all come under the umbrella of Kargo and all be supported by.
Yeah.
But that's the
Kargo,
thing with record labels. Like, we know hella friends who have been in record labels and been making crazy music, then they get signed. And then it's just like 2 years of crickets, like they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Just because they're not able to actually make what they want to make. Like, they make a song, it gets big, and then the label's like, oh, we need you to make that song 100 times. But it's like with us, like with Ethan's music, you listen to Ethan's music like when he first dropped, and then his second project, and then you listen to the music he makes now with Alex. It's completely different. And it's like, if you were in like a record label, they wouldn't allow you to do that.
Yeah.
But with us, it's like you can do whatever you want.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here a little bit and put you on the spot. But in my head, it's easy to say when you're a smaller label. But I can imagine when you grow to a size where you have full-time employees that you got to support, and you have more pressure that the artists you sign on actually do well and produce income. I can see from their point of view that it's really important to them that their artists are productive. So obviously this is a great goal that you have, that you want to try to avoid that pressure from the artists as much as possible. But what's stopping you from naturally occurring as you grow?
As in like the...
You mean from like a record label's perspective, in that like their perspective is for making people productive? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think like...
Yeah.
I mean, me personally, I think we would all agree that we'd rather do what we want to do rather than being productive in something that you don't want to do, you know? So for record labels, like, like, you know, we want an album this year, and we want, you know, this amount of singles and da-da-da-da-da, but it's all some music that you don't want to make, then like, we would all prefer to just make what we want to make and worry about the consistency and the rest of that less.
And I think,
like the actual creativity itself and what you want to produce is more important than a label telling you this is what we want and this is how it needs to be and all of that. Because at the end of the day, I mean, that's not you.
Yeah.
You know, that's like not what you want to make. That's someone executive telling you what you want to, telling you what to make.
I want to make what the public wants to make.
Yeah.
And I guess like it's so scrutinized. Like we, again, back to having friends who work in the industry, like we had a close friend, Bailey, who had a track sent out to Doja Cat and Coil Ray. Both were passed on, but were written by a writer who was working closely with them. And Bailey sends the beat through. The writer then sings on it in the style in which they think Doja or, you know, Coil Ray might do it in. But at the end of the day, it's so constructed and thought out and put together that it just becomes this routine repeat thing of
it's manufactured. It's manufactured. It's not what the artist wants. It's not what, you know, it's not coming from the artist at all, really.
But I think
there's so many different people. There's the label deciding the sound. They'll get writers to write what they want, then people to record it in the way they want it recorded, and then you basically have to do exactly what that is. And if they don't, like, again, like we heard stories of, you know, just terrible studio experiences of label people coming in and telling you, you know, no, re-record it. That's not how it needs to be, or it needs to sound like this, or you need to do it. And it's like, from our perspective, that's the entire creative process just eliminated.
So you're almost saying that these big artists, what they're bringing is their personal brand, not necessarily their music.
I think, and obviously you can break it down as to the creative field of what music is and has become such a diverse thing, where there's obviously people who want money, there's people who enjoy the music, there's people who want all these different experiences out of that musical job, whatever it may be. But I think obviously there's a point in time where you might think, all right, I want to go down the path of being a part of a label. What does that actually entail? Or you may not know that, but I think that's just something that people kind of go through and experience and take from that what they do. Some people have an incredibly positive experience and maybe that's just what they want to do with music. But I think, maybe I can't speak for everyone, but I think the general consensus is that being able to make your music freely without, you know, the constraints of what other people might think or people breathing down your neck saying, hey, you got to make it like this or that. I think that's where the creative freedom is just limited and puts you in a box.
I think in the end of the day, the business is business, and music and the music industry is like one of the biggest businesses in the world. So I think like a lot of what you see and like a lot of this shit on TikTok and like a lot, are we allowed to swear in here? And like a lot of the shit that you see on TikTok and just online and like the biggest artists in the world and like, you know, Ice Spice and everything, like what people don't realize is like how manufactured that image actually is and like how calculated.
How much thought, bro? Yeah, like they have whole teams, bro. Like whole teams of, you know, and it's a whole plan of, you know, this is how it's gonna be, and this is this, and this is that.
Because they know what and then will make it go viral.
Yeah,
before you even made the track, they got like the 6-month promo plan in place for the video and this and that.
And that's what
it's the whole campaign of what's gonna go. You know, and that's like...
And that's kind of why the whole point of this, because it's like we, growing up, like me and Ethan being like 14, 15, making music, being like, man, like I can't wait till we're a bit older, this shit can pop off and we can be like in LA, like Playboy Cardi, like it looks so super cool, like it looks like what you want. But then as you get older and then you talk to people who have actually done that and who have experienced that and been in the industry, it's like, man, you know, I actually don't want to be a part of that at all.
But then I think as well, if you want to delve deeper into it, it's then looking at the demographic and what exists in Australia and breaking down, you know, the industry in itself here. And obviously Australia as a whole has quite a large indie band. We've definitely got a large electronic music scene. We've got a large rap scene, but I guess what it has slowly become is that of maybe what people see online or that of what exists in other places. So obviously you look at somewhere like America where there's a lot of different, if you're just specifically looking at rap or hip hop, for example, the whole world and the whole society that exists in America has a place for that, just over the whole course of time and how that's evolved in that society.
Culturally,
and culturally, you know, whatever. It's from a place of maybe hardship or whatever it may have been to get to that point to be like, all right, I'm going to decide to be a rapper right now. But at the end of the day, there's all the opportunities maybe in America to do that and to literally just blow up on YouTube over one song and you might have $1 million in your bank account by tomorrow. But the thing is, if you're looking at it in Australia, you're not going to get those same opportunities without signing to a bigger label. And that's where you're already putting yourself in a box.
Yeah.
I know that Australia is kind of infamous for not having any competition where like if you look at shopping centers, for example, like Coles and Wally's is like owns 99% of the market, right?
Yeah.
Is it similar for labels? Like, is there like a handful of labels in Australia that essentially control the market?
I think
the whole world.
Well, I think there's like
Australia, more in like in the
whole
UK,
world.
like I mean, not in the UK.
The whole world, there's
the
like-
the whole world.
I mean, the whole world is like,
there's
yeah.
four. There's only like Universal, Sony, Warner Brothers, and I think one other which I can't forget. But there's like 4 major record labels, and it's like every other label in the whole world. Like if you look at Cactus
There's,
Jack,
like, under them.
or like anything like any sort of other label that's
Interscope,
lower,
and then
Interscope,
it's
it
like
all goes
labels
back
under labels
to
under
the
labels.
top 4.
Yeah, like
And
Columbia
that's like, bro,
Records
if you go
and
to
shit.
if you go to Woolworths, it's like every single product in Woolworths can
So
be
it's
rooted
like,
back
like
to
you seen like
5
that
big
photo.
businesses.
Yeah.
It's like they took like a photo of like this, like a shelf in like Coles or Woolworths or whatever, and then they highlighted like
all the
all
way
the
it goes.
colors. Like red was owned by one brand and green was owned by the other brand, and like pretty much 90% of all the product on the shelves, it all came back to one
Right.
one father.
But it's the
company.
same with
I mean,
music.
that's
It's
a
like
big-
That's what I was
the
thinking,
four.
same
Yeah,
with
it's the
music.
big
Yeah.
4. Like any label, literally majority of any labels that you see that anybody's working with, like Cardi's like Opium label, like Cactus Jack, like any of those labels, or any single label, they just go back to the big 4.
Yeah.
And that's
Now,
why
I'm
it's
even
so
thinking
hard.
like if you keep going with this analogy of like the artists are like the products on the shelf, and these manufacturers are like you're saying all of it's creating one, and then you from what you've said about writers and things, I'm just thinking like wow, there's probably like one writer that's just done music for all these people.
Yeah, man.
Especially
Yeah,
that
that's-
person
yeah.
who's be writing it.
Yeah.
Bro.
Bro, there's hundreds of writers. Like if you ever go on Spotify and look at the Get Info, and there'll be like a songwriter.
I mean,
Yeah.
you look at
like
the basis of like Billie Eilish's brother, like Phineas.
Oh,
He's
bro.
insane. Like
That
if you look at his
dude-
accreditation, that dude has written. I mean, I think all of Billie's stuff. Maybe I think she's written a
He
lot
was
of
in
it as
Glee
well.
too. I realized that the other day.
What was
Like,
that?
Phineas, like
In
Billie
Glee?
Eilish's brother, he was in Glee. Like
Oh,
10
really?
years
The
ago.
TV
Huh.
show.
There
yeah.
you
I
go.
didn't realize that.
Yeah.
But you do see that, and you see
Yeah.
that there's a lot of people who are controlling that, and they just have their
It's pretty
hands in every piece of the
it's pretty
pie.
insane. And it's like when people talk about like this like secret societies and like the top 1%, I believe in that, but I think it definitely is true to an extent. Like the amount of people, like especially not only in like the music industry, but in the film industry, and then these industry like in the industries which are meant to be creative, like bro, people are just milking it. It's like capitalism. Like people are at the top, making as much money as they can and rinsing people. It's like somebody told me a couple years ago at uni, like one of my professors, like with record labels, they'll get like 200 like little sticky things, for example, like balls that stick. They'll throw 200 balls at a wall.
Yeah.
If one of them sticks, that's the one they go off with. The other 199 like
'Cause it doesn't
artists
matter,
and
right?
shit.
Yeah, like,
Bro,
hell yeah,
you
that's
give
the one.
these
That's
artists like
it.
a little deal, and you know, for someone like even for someone like us, it's like a major label comes to you and we'll offer you this type of deal. Bro, your eyes light up. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Sam said, they've probably done that for hundreds of other people, but we're in the exact same demographic or lane as you, and then see what sticks, and if you don't stick, then like you just shelve.
It's just on to the
and,
next.
and- but for them, like that's
depressing.
That's the way that their business
that's
model
what-
goes.
yeah, it
like,
is.
That's the way the business models go.
And I think it's just like taken away.
Takes away the fun of making music,
Yeah.
man. Like it takes away. I remember being younger and being like, man, like it would be so cool to be in America, being like a famous rapper or like working with this certain person. And then you get older and you're like, bro, fuck all that. Like these, it's all whack and it's all like.
I don't know. I think as well, if you really want to get like deep into it, and this is where I'm like quite passionate about it, is that in this point in time, I think that the industry, talking about most creative fields, are spread very, very thin. And the reason I suggest that is because we're in a day and age where you can get, we had COVID and people were trying lots of different things. And obviously we have TikTok where people's attention spans have gone from this all the way down to this.
Yeah.
And now people are just like, completely just trying all these things out. But what we're actually ending up with is a less skilled field of people that are working in it, because it's more about, it just saturates it a bit
That's
more.
so interesting.
And so I think just fundamentally, people can obviously do what they want, and I think creatively, I think it's really, really cool that we're able to say we're in the day and age that we're in now, where you can just go out and try it and be free to do it. But I think that if you're going to go and do it, there just needs to be a level of experience and skill that comes with that, and however long that process takes for you. But I think...
And that's like, building upon that as well, as I feel like it's sort of, I've witnessed it in sort of like how it impacts like the underground sort of music scene, is because these labels now just have eyes on like so many people in the underground. And if they see like, you know, one person has a song that's buzzing or whatever, then they'll just boom, sign them up. They'll like rinse them for that year. And, you know, while they're hot for that year, just rinse them, keep making them produce like the exact same song that they found them off of. And then the next year they're forgotten about, because that whole artistic journey and process of like figuring out who you are, what you want to sound like, what you want to do, is just completely negated, because all these labels are like, yeah, we'll give you this deal for whatever, and then they rinse it and then they're done.
It's so interesting because like obviously, like I said, I was an engineer, so the difference between, it's so interesting to me, the difference between the value for people in my industry compared to yours, because obviously it takes a lot longer to become an engineer, 4 years of uni, and then you have to be good, and then have soft skills and people skills, but also be good at technical. So the pool of people gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So when a company does get you, they value you so much.
Yeah.
It costs so much more money to get someone new than it does to keep someone they have. And so the people are valued like insanely high amounts, every single person that gets there. Whereas
contrary, it's not.
Because there's so many musicians.
And
like
these labels have
like
bands on bands to just throw at people, and throwing like a 10K deal here and there is nothing for them. Like, you know, and then if one sticks, then they'll make that money back easily.
Don't pop down record deals though. You got to pay that shit back.
You do.
Yeah.
Like,
what do you mean?
You got to
like
pay
most
it back.
of the time, it's
I mean, it depends on your deal, but like, some people are smart with it, and they'll if they're smart, they'll be able to set their deal out properly. But a lot of the ones that like if you just get a song that blows off from the underground, and someone will like come at a deal with you, bro, they're gonna offer you the cheapest, like shittiest deal.
They might say like, hey, we'll give you $1 million, and then you produce like one album for us, and that rapper or whatever the artist is might just spend that $1 million on like a car, a house, let's just say. And then by the end of it, the label hasn't said, all right, you've actually got to pay for the distribution costs, you've got to pay for the PR, then you've got to pay for this, so you end up paying
they front the money, but you got to pay all of that back.
Pay the money
because that money
so you're
actually
not
comes out.
employed by the label. The label is just there to like...
No, you are employed, I guess.
They're funding you, but it's a loan, bro. It's a loan. Like, if you're not
making
that money
back through what you're doing, like whether the tours you're doing, like the clothes or the music you're making, if they give you like $1 million for a certain amount of time, and in that amount of time you don't make like $1 million back through what you're doing, then you owe them that money.
Like if you're smart and you're like, all right, for the next like 4 years, this $2 million has got to last me that, and then all right, this is how much I got to put aside for this and that, and you do your budget perfectly, you're probably cheering. You're going to walk out with a bit of money on the end.
That's the other thing as well.
That's such a hard reality.
How they lock you, like they'll trap you, because if they'll like front you a certain amount of money for your deal or whatever, and you do that, they're not going to do a 1 year deal anyway. Minimum deals, like mostly, will be like 5 years, because they don't want to front that money. You get that promo, your deal ends, and then you leave them. You've got all the success from them, and then so you go indie after that, and then you basically reap all the rewards from the money that they fronted you. So that's another way, like they'll lock you in, and then that's why the deals are so long and they have all these clauses, because they don't want the individual artist to profit off the money they've given you to then go and continue your career yourself, because they still want that money, because in their minds they got you there,
And at the end of the day, above everything, it's intellectual property, and they've got that.
So I'm guessing you work with lawyers a lot then.
You would have to, They would have a large scale team of lawyers.
We had a homie who got signed, and it took him like up to 12 months just to deal with all the lawyer stuff. And I think he spent like 8 racks.
Really?
I mean, it started
just trying to get just paying for the lawyer fees.
Like being in a situation where someone's been elected to be that sub-label person, there's something happened with that individual and he's signed some other people. Now what do you do with these people now that this guy's gone? he's already owning you, and so you've got to like legally get out of that situation. But this guy's
it's
gone.
crazy,
so it's
bro,
like,
because it's like that's the thing about the music industry and like record labels, man. Like you look at that, and you look at it even back in the day when it was like Tupac and like Suge Knight, Death Row, like big like Diddy, like everybody. It always looks so cool and so glamorous, and it's like, I don't know, man. You get older and then you look into it and you realize it is just like the most toxic field in the area. And it's like, man, even look at all the stuff like everybody's saying about Diddy now. Like everything that's coming out about
and then
him.
overarching again from it. This is what America is. It's not Australia. So it's like we have such like, even if you wanted that opportunity, you're a 1 in a million dude that's going to have that.
It's so funny. I really thought we'd have this podcast about the music industry and already encourage people to get into it.
But no, I will say, like, obviously,
no, but I think like to get into it, it's just like, be aware, but do it yourself. Like that's, I think, if anything, that's the conclusion.
I think as well, it's about like just setting up a platform that allows for that opportunity. But second of all, if you're going into the music industry with that in the back of your mind and you have the knowledge of it and you're just conscious of it, you'll probably be completely fine.
I think that's what we're
just focus on your craft.
We're trying to like tell people is because, we're doing our shit independently and it's good and we're able to do what we want. Like we'll do what we want when we want and make what we want to happen. But I think like, if you're passionate about it, definitely get into the music industry.
But 100% do it.
But just don't do it.
Be cautious. And nothing we're saying, I feel like, is like fucking new knowledge as well.
Sure.
Like
like heaps of people.
There's like, there's not Netflix documentaries on how many people have been finessed out of deals and.
No, I think what you're saying is good because you're saying. Like, it's okay, if you're passionate about this, like, don't expect it to be easy. Essentially,
don't expect it to be easy.
I can tell you for a fact it's not
especially
easy.
In Australia, especially in Australia, you got to work double as hard.
Like, it's an everyday grind. And the moment the ball drops off,
Yeah.
that is the volatility of being in this industry as well. You could have success one day, but you could completely fall off the next. But that's about, being prepared in your life. And,
But I think if you're going to do it, just do it independently. Like, don't bother with the labels and all that.
You are a label, just saying.
Yeah, well, we're independent.
We're
label.
independent.
Oh, you're an
label.
independent label. Yes,
label.
sure.
So it's like, but that's how we feel. But I think at the end of the day, my whole reason for wanting to like start Kargo with Alex and like get into this was because in my head I was like, look,
just to change the narrative
all my friends have been
what like the existing narrative of labels is to sort of just
and it's like if we can create a label which is independent. Which isn't like these people, like, I don't know, they're kind of like demons, man, honestly. They're scary, like A&Rs and like record label people. Like, they're like,
they don't teach you that stuff, but I think it's about showing people, hey, you can actually do this.
Yeah, like you can.
It takes a lot of work.
To give people a good example, who's someone that everyone would know as a popular artist that did go down that independent label path and they actually made it?
I mean, the best example.
Russ, I'd say. Russ. Because he's making music with Kanye now, I think. Like, Russ used
to get so much shit for the music he made, but he just made it, didn't give a fuck. And I mean, like, I don't necessarily listen to Russ. I wouldn't say that I like his music, but you can really respect the guy as an artist because he stayed completely true to himself. And now he's racking it in every single day. Amazing. Crazy amounts of streams, money.
Man.
But he owns,
way more money, bro, because you own all your
over
masters.
90%.
That's the thing. Like when you do these deals, there'll be 360 deals, and bro, they will own everything then.
And another person as well who's got a crazy.
Money off. It's not your work. Like you don't actually own. Just not your IP. Like
the only other person who has got like a crazy record deal that is like unheard of is 21 Savage, and he managed to get himself in a position where he basically just used his leverage and ability to talk to offer himself, instead of like, all right, we own 50% of your songs and the revenue that comes from that. The deal was that it was 80-20 or 70-30, but by the end of it, he actually owns his catalog. So that's what you want at the end of the day.
That's the most important thing at the end of the day.
You want to say, hey, like these are all the tracks that I've made, and then you can sell that to a record label. That's your bag.
That's another thing, man. A lot of like artists that you listen to, they don't even own the songs.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're listening to like I don't know, like who's a random artist? Like you're listening to like.
Oh, I mean, like most big artists. I don't know what the deal with Trav would be, but
So I don't know if you guys heard recently, but I'm sure you have, you're in the industry. But like, there was the wedding in India and Rihanna got
Oh yeah,
signed to
that
her.
mad
It was like $6 million or
for-
something,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you're saying, from my understanding, so the songs that she played in that concert, so the label would have got some most, or if not like.
I mean, I can't speak on Rihanna because she's
Yeah,
like, I feel like when you get to a certain like baller
Riri's
level
like
like that,
a-
like
yeah.
Drake,
She's got some
when
bargaining
Drake
power
got
for
over
sure.
you,
Yeah.
It's like on a whole.
it's like, yeah, you
I-
really get
that's
to
the
the
But
level
like that
where-
money is not all hers. She actually has to send that.
I
to-
imagine that there would be a
Because she doesn't
percentage
own the
that
songs,
wouldn't go
right?
back.
So-
But I think I actually don't know
Yeah,
anything
if-
about Rihanna and her
Shout
label
out
situation,
Riri,
but
billionaire.
I think
Yeah,
she probably would have some form of sub-label thing. She'd probably own a bit higher of a percentage of her
But then
catalog.
also, she
Yeah.
probably
And
get
I think
paid.
the splits would be a lot
But,
more.
but bro, when you're getting paid X
Yeah.
amount to go and perform at a wedding, like
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
you're in a
different.
different
Yeah.
bracket.
Yeah, right,
That's
exactly.
like-
I mean, they
that's
probably just
like-
paid her in cash. It's like, here you go, like,
Yeah.
fucking go, just
Like,
come here.
that's-
we
With money,
did.
though.
So we did skip Ethan.
No, we did.
Oh,
We
yeah.
did
Do you want to do an
completely.
intro? Like who?
Ethan Rip, yeah, make music, make a bunch of different music. Recently been making it like with Alex a lot
Yeah.
on the prod. Used to make more like just like trappy shit. But I've been making like heaps of different stuff, honestly. But most recently it's just been with Alex. Me and Alex been cooking up.
Yeah.
More like electronic, dancey sort of. We don't really have a set sound at the moment. I feel like we're still sort of just exploring like the crossover of sort of my vocal style with Alex's production style and just merging it together.
Yeah.
It's still a process of working out like exactly what direction it's going into. But then the most important thing is that we're doing it and doing something. And every track we do, learning things, and it gets us closer to a direction that we want to go in.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, that leads to my next question, which was, obviously you're the producer of the label, and then you have artists under you, including yourself.
Sure.
How does that relationship work between a producer and an artist, and where the roles split when you create, like go from the creation to the completion of music? Yeah.
No, it's a good question because I think it was a role that I think has become more and more defined, especially being maybe the owner of a business, and I've realized that I don't want to spread myself short. So aside from obviously Sam and Ethan, there's a lot of other people who are involved in the business on that administrative and business side, which has allowed me to now focus on solely being the producer, which is fantastic. But I think moving initially, it was created through discovery and understanding the needs of maybe Sam and Ethan as just an example, and then evolving on it from there, I think piece by piece. But one thing that has allowed, I think, the synergy of it, if that's what you want to reference it, is probably just how well we've been able to articulate the sounds that we want to get across to each other. And that's really important when working with a producer. And I think something that hasn't been working with other artists, and maybe at the point where other artists are getting other artists on board, it's been a big thing of like having that synergy is quite important, because it is a really hard skill to kind of have, but I think it is something that people can really learn and evolve themselves to have. So going back to Sam and Ethan and just a random studio session all along the way, it's just been something that we've continually evolved. Ethan and Sam have jumped on the computer and been like, get out, I don't like that sound, and put something on there that's been better, and I've understood, all right, this is more the sound that they're going to go for. Trying to describe something creative to somebody else with maybe the limited vocabulary you have at the time is really hard. So I think it's mainly about the language that you use, and just being able to say, if you just say, oh, I like that, spooky sound, or that ting or whatever it is, unfortunately that's not really going to get you that far. But if you're able to articulate and describe what it is that you need in a track and what you want out of it, that's a really important thing. And I would recommend that to anyone that's going to work with any producer, because obviously aside from Ethan and Sam, I've sat in a room with people who I've never met before, but just being able to understand. And I think me sitting back, having that knowledge and consciously thinking, all right, how am I going to fit into this person's either sound selection or what does this dude want? That's just a skill that I've kind of picked up on. But
awesome.
I think just being able to kind of be conscious and evolving on that is just, it's important for the studio process.
And is Alex a good producer?
Nah, bro, he's killer. I think sort of back to like what you just asked before, I think obviously I can't speak on Alex's behalf, but I know just from when I've been working with Alex, I think that process, it's not really like a set process. It's different for everybody, and it's different for even the like type of tracks that we'll be making, you know. And there will be some times where it'll be like Alex will just have whipped up a beat, and then in the process I'll be like, all right, I'm just gonna hop on it and just punch in and do what I need to do. And that will be a completely and entirely different result to when we're both like sitting down next to each other and like building the beat together. So I think it's not like a set streamlined thing for I know just for me and Alex, like the amount of different situations or scenarios, if we have like an outcome in mind, it'll be like, all right, how do we achieve that outcome? And that outcome may be Alex does his thing and then sends it to me and I do my thing, and that'll be that. Or then like I said, we're gonna do it together. I think that is a good point. It eventuates to what it's about the outcome of like what you want that track to be. I think that is a good point, because I think over the last year at least, and with the releases that we've had, and when I've been sitting down thinking about a track that is going to be the final product, or what Ethan has sent me or what Sam sent me in regards to just the individual stems or a vocal thing, it's about, as a producer, sitting down and being like, how can this track go to where I want it to go? And having conversations with Sam and Ethan. Ethan might be like, all right, I want this on the radio. Sam might be like, I don't want to release it, but I want to evolve or work on this particular sound, or have practice with this. The outcome is different for each of the situations. But I think in the last year, as the record label and having run events and all the other stuff that we do, focusing back on the music has been really important, and getting the tracks out with a solid outcome and going into it saying, hey, by the end of this, we want to get X, Y, Z out of this. That has been a large process of the studio. I think like, again, just to touch on that, it's like it's never one set process. And I feel like it just sort of, it needs to, you can have like a set idea, but to get to that final destination, it sort of needs to be like an organic process. And that's something even that I've like realized recently, is that when I would look at like other people and how like, they would record, or how they would record or produce, or when they were going into the studio, how that environment would look like. Not necessarily having to see that and be like, all right, well, that's what they're doing, so that's what I need to do. Because from my personal experience, you're just manufacturing it even further. I think the most important thing with art across the board is just that it's organic and it's true to you. And I think especially just with like seeing everything online, that it's easy to think like, oh, this is how that person's done it, so I need to do it like that and recreate that process. Whereas then understanding that process may work for those people, but that necessarily doesn't work for me.
Awesome. Do you ever, like, obviously you described obviously putting a creative thought or a vision into words, this can be difficult. Do you ever struggle with that communication? You said you did it pretty well, but do you ever lose impatience with each other at all, or?
I think I struggle with each other. I would say like I struggle with like articulating things, because I think it's less word. Well, for me, it's less words and it's more like feeling. And being able to articulate that feeling is
without shouting.
But I think that shit's so hard though. Like I feel when I'm working with my homie Sam, who I'm in my band with, sometimes I feel really bad, because it is hard to articulate an idea. Like when two people are sitting there and you're just thinking two different things, and sometimes I feel bad because like I'll be talking to Sam, I'll be like, do this, do that. I'll be like, change that. And it's like, you're not really using like your manners or anything. But I guess it's just like how well you kind of know that person. But I think, there's definitely times where you can get pissed off. Like sometimes I've been sitting at a laptop trying to do something, and like one of these guys has been, like Mitch or something, has been trying to tell me what to do.
Or someone's just like, yapping in the back.
And it's like, bro, shut the fuck up.
Especially when you're like trying to compromise, like if you have a vision to it.
That's
and sometimes it's like, oh, you got to trust the vision. Like I know where I'm going here. Just like, let me sit with it for 10 minutes and then like, I'll hear what you got to say. Obviously, I'll still hear what you got to say, but like,
if you got the vision.
I think a lot of my frustration came from like not getting shit done when we were organizing a studio session. But one thing that came from
it's too easy to.
It has to be organic.
Yeah,
and those times that it doesn't happen, they need to happen.
Yeah.
Because that will just continue the growth and allow you to get to that point.
There's so many times you go to do a studio session and then you.
Is that expensive? A studio session?
No, not really.
I mean, the home studio.
Right, so you don't need to hire it.
I mean, we all got like studios at home, but we did have a
chill.
studio with, I had a studio with East Ave and a guy called David Longo. And that was a really great place and a central meeting spot for us for 6 or 7 months, and that was in Norwood. At this point in time, we're super close with the curated guys and Aiden, who runs Pure Ink and does all the screen printing at Curated. But Aiden, shout out Aiden and the Curated guys. But they're moving on from that particular space, and there'll be an opportunity for us potentially to work with Aiden in regards to a musical space that
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We're working it out, just trying to work out the feasibility, and because at the end of the day, it's not just about us, and it's not about we can always record, like we said, we got home studios, we can just do it at home.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's about creating a spot,
a space
for people.
where it's like a space to work,
a place for people to come in as well.
And initiate
creativity.
That's what we want,
like, just to have people to come into a studio, like somebody who's never made a song before. Because I can be nervous, like I remember when I was younger, like going to a music studio, like you don't know much. It's nerve-wracking and there's a lot of emotions. But we want to make a space where we can encourage like younger people to come in and, feel welcome and be able to make music.
What do you think is stopping them from doing that? Like what?
I remember when I was younger, man, people would just like bully the shit out of me, bro. Like not even on some like shit like that, but the music, I listened back to the music I was putting out when I was like 14, and I was like, bro, if I was going to school with a kid who was 14 making this, I would have bullied them as well, you feel me? Like, it's just like, I feel like that's just...
But you gotta learn, like...
You gotta learn.
You're not gonna be great when you start.
I needed that because because it's like the same dudes who were telling me, making fun of me for my music back in school, are the same guys coming to my shows, showing me the most love these days. Yeah. So it's like, you give that stuff time, but I feel like it's nerve-wracking because I guess being creative, and I went to an all-boys school, so like being creative or trying to express yourself in some sort of artistic way was kind of like,
that was really hard.
You're kind of like you can't express yourself in that environment. So to take the step to express yourself, but I feel like if there was a space like we're trying to create where it's like somewhere you can go with dudes who are a bit older who can show you guidance, if I was younger and there was a space like that for me, I felt like I would have excelled in that. So I guess that's why I'm so eager to try and do something like that. I think the benefit we have being in Adelaide is that, and what I've seen is when you have vision like this, you can actually do it. Everything's just starting here. Yeah. It's new, it's growing, and so you get to do that for the next generation. I'd say that's super recent though, because I remember when we were growing up and when we were younger, the shit wasn't like that. Like if you were trying to do something creative or you were trying to express yourself, people would just
I'll say some shit next. But.
Yeah, people did not like that.
One of the questions I had prepared and wanted to find out was what kind of was, when you got into music, what was the unique challenges specifically or opportunities that Adelaide gives you compared to the rest of the world? And I did mention here, a lot of you guys said that the dream is LA, or moving to America, or like that's where it is big. But what makes us unique and harder starting here?
I think for me especially, and talking about and touching on my musical experience and my background, I started playing cello when I was 4 years old, and that was a thing purely just because we had a family friend that taught at the time. But for my parents, it was the only thing that they were like, no, we're never giving Alex a cello lesson because he's just going to break it. He's running around a million miles an hour, he's going crazy. But that was the only thing that made me sit still. So for my parents, not coming from a lot of money and giving their kids the opportunity to go to a private school was really important, and something that I've been very thankful for. But we thought at the time it'd be a great opportunity to use the skills that I have from learning the cello to be able to get that opportunity. So got a scholarship from year 3 to year 4 to go to St. Andrews in Walkerville, and then got a scholarship to go to St. Peter's to go to high school, right?
Wow.
So that was a really big thing for me, just having achieved that, and that was really important. But it had already shaped what music was to me and had defined it in a very tunnel vision way, I guess. Yeah. And that is that you have expectations from going to a school, being a part of a scholarship program alone. That's one thing to the side. And there's a lot of things that you have to commit to do that. It's a good experimental process though, because it allows you to experience within the music field what it is that you like and don't like. So through all of those opportunities, through school, outside of that, private tuition, etc., I was able to get to a level where I was able to play at the con, finishing up school, doing, you know, a couple years ahead of the music program there, and then further to that, enhancing it by looking into the Adelaide youth orchestras that were run by Keith Crellin. I think they're still run by Keith Crellin. And so I was a part of AYS, Adelaide Youth Symphonia, and Adelaide Youth Strings. Wow. So they were really important parts of my life growing up, but it was a really hyper-focused way, and it was a really hyper-focused introduction into what music was for me. And I think that was playing in an orchestra, it was playing alongside other people, it was preparing for state-of-the-art performances, you know, playing Symphony Under the Stars in front of thousands of people, you know, doing certificate of performance in front of hundreds at Elder Hall. Those were the situations where it kind of stripped it apart, and it was like, all right, what do I like about music? I enjoy the cello. I really, really like the cello. Cool. Do I enjoy forcibly playing in an orchestra that I don't necessarily enjoy? Not that really. Not that much. But what do I enjoy about music? It's the sounds that come from it. It's being able to play a passage of music that you may not have been able to hear before, that has then opened up something for you. And I think that's where it's expanded my creativity for music. And that's allowed me to be like, all right, I want to delve into being a music producer. And I have this talent to play the cello. I can incorporate that into, you know, playing music. And I have this interest in this genre and that genre and all that kind of stuff. But I think fundamentally, Adelaide as a whole has formed the basis for where I am now. It's allowed me to explore freely, playing in orchestras, playing a musical instrument, and then also being able to branch out and have lots of different friends who may have experienced the same thing, but they've also gone through the process, and you'd be able to see, all right, I've got friends who was a classical composer. I don't really enjoy doing that stuff. I've got, you know, a friend who might be like a film score writer. I don't necessarily enjoy that, you know, producer. Oh, that ticks my box. But I think if you're talking as well about Adelaide and how it's impacted me as a whole, I think fundamentally it's impacted me. I take the positives from everything, but I think growing up as a musical kid was really, really difficult. In the private school situation, and Sam touched on this before, massive amounts of bullying. And I don't know whether that's from...
But there wasn't a group of you? Like,
I mean, there was a group. I mean, that group was always the outlier though, sure. You know, I mean, in that situation,
like band kid.
Yeah, like band
like
kid, you know.
music kid.
And I'm not sure whether that's like, you know, your parents are always like, oh, you know, they're just jealous of you, whatever. I don't know if it's actually that or not, but there is obviously a large stigma surrounding whatever it is and people doing different things during school. And I always felt like I dressed differently and was doing a bit more creative things, but that I felt repercussions for. And so that made me very timid, I think, overall, and quite skeptical to go out and just freely do it, while having in the back of my mind that you can do it completely free in this city. So that was one thing that I was hesitant about. And through this whole thing, I definitely tried a lot of different things. You know, I studied forensic medicine for a bit at uni. I did criminology and psych. I wanted to join the federal police. You know, I tried all these different things going through school and adhering to some of the social pressures that you do find and conforming into that lane. But at the end of the day, I just put it all on hold. I was like, fuck it, I need to do my music production course. And I just, you know, 5 years after school, I was like, all right, I just have to.
Where was that course?
That was at SAE. So that's just in Chinatown now, but it's a private institution that hosts, I think they might be public now, but I did an electronic music production course there. And I'd already, as I mentioned, studied at the con and, you know, played cello and stuff, but I didn't want to necessarily do that. I just wanted to learn Ableton. So Adelaide's been really a great opportunity to focus on what you want to do, and it is a really great place to do it without there being a large amount of financial repercussions. And just, you know, we're not going to die at the end of the day if you give music a go. I think where I've tossed up like the positives and negatives, and this is why I've decided to do what I do today, is there was a large portion of Adelaide, this is in the fashion, you know, largely in the fashion industry, and you see it in the music, all creative fields in Adelaide. There felt like there's an in-group, and to get into that in-group, it's just because we have a smaller population. You know, if you went somewhere else that had a large population, you could integrate into lots of different groups easier. But I think at this point in time, and when I was growing up, it felt like I had to be a bit of a cool kid to kind of get in there, and, you know, you always just wanted to be a part of that. So that's a stigma, and something that I think Kargo is positively trying to change, is the fact that you can do it. And that goes back to, you know, if you've got the skills and the drive and, you know, the talent, just give it a go. And, you know, there's all the people and structures in place for you to excel, provided that. But I think as well, it's also touching back on the saturating of the market. It's also saturating the market to the furthest degree in Adelaide, because we have such a small population that it's almost filtering through. There's a lot of crap coming through, and it's filtering down a lot of the good.
Yeah.
And so I think just finding that balance is really important. And I think that's just something you do evolve on growing up, and
I feel
the
like
hardship.
How you said about sort of being in like that, you know, like that in group or whatever. I feel like what even Sam and I have been discussing recently, just like Australia as a whole, like culturally sort of has that, like, you know, like short poppy syndrome. Tall poppy syndrome, where like everyone just like wants to cut you down and just hate on what you're doing.
I think that's the thing about Adelaide.
And that's, well, like I feel like, well, I know we've all felt like that, where Kargo is really trying to like solidify and put on for Adelaide as well, because it is viable options, and there are a lot more opportunities, which may be purely based just off population sizes, that there are more opportunities, you know, if you go interstate or go to the US or the UK. And I feel like, even in like my short time growing up and being in sort of the creative industry, like, and field scene here, that a lot of the people that like I would aspire to and that would inspire me, who, you know, are older than me, they sort of, instead of just holding it down here and really trying to cultivate and build something for Adelaide, it's a viable option to just, you know, and I understand why, because there are more opportunities in Melbourne and other places to go and do these things. So I think that's why it sort of has, like, Adelaide and South Australia just as a whole, a sort of, not suffered, but it's just in a different circumstance to a lot of these other cities, because it feels like it sort of will get to a point, and then the people who are sort of at that point to get it solid and build a foundation and build a name, then will go elsewhere, which is like, you know, everyone's doing their own thing, like completely, like, I get it.
But honestly, like, doing that would probably be for the best. Because I don't know, because I feel like in Adelaide, like you said, tall poppy syndrome, like, especially in Adelaide, like, we went through a phase a couple years ago where we were running like heaps of events at like 99 Gang Social, like every other Friday. And we were doing events there, and, you know, it was just a whole, and then everybody was doing events, and then events was a whole thing, and then now nobody wants to come out and like step out.
It's just like, everything's quite short-lived.
Yeah, everything's very short-lived. And I think as well, like, I think about that sometimes, like, my goal would be, ideally would be to do something here. I think all of us is to build a foundation here and to build a solid scene here, and to get. And
there's no reason why you can't, you know, go overseas or go interstate and still continue to build the foundation here.
But I think that's what it would take.
From my experience, it's always been the reason it works overseas or in other states is because, like, as much as, you know, you can either love or hate this idea, but it's the truth ultimately. It's that decisions get made and things get produced and things get done when you're around people that can do that. And so, like, you talk about these big labels, like, where are they all based, right? You know? And so, I met the head of this label. I was having coffee at a coffee shop, and we ended up having a conversation, and now they love me and I wanted to work with her. You can't do that from Adelaide.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because it's like,
there's nothing
right
here.
place, right time type
Exactly.
thing.
And
I think,
you're more likely to get in those situations just in some places.
And just eliminating that.
Definitely.
Eliminating that and being able to have just the opportunity to say, hey, you can do it.
Yeah.
But that just was all the pushback. Like, it was all the pushback that experienced. And I think for me, that gave me the drive to be like, all right, it doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter if that person wants to do that. Because at the end of the day, this is what I want to do. And there's a large thing in everyone, in the whole of society, of change and the ability to change. And fundamentally, I think my purpose is to be able to change people's opinions. And I've said this 100 times before to these guys. I used to work at Vodafone, right? And there's the common argument of Apple versus Samsung. And the customer would come in and say, hey, I really want a new phone. I'm happy to try whatever. I've got a Samsung now. And I'm like, all right, well, we've got the main competitor, something similar, Apple. No, I don't want that. It's too different. But at the end of the day, you break it down, they're actually very similar phones. They're identical. It's just the way that you get to that final point is slightly different. And that can be translated throughout everything. And just the ability to change, the willingness to change, and how quickly that happens for people. And I think where I've experienced it is like, even just the example of school and people shitting on you for what you're doing. It's like, well, I can do what I want to do, and as long as I have that confidence to do it, then no one can really stop you from getting there.
Awesome.
It's just
I wanted to touch a little bit on, you mentioned that when you decided that you wanted to be a producer, you went and did the certificate. What value did you get out of that? And like, do you think it was a net positive outcome, or like doing that formal education in music and production and that side of things?
That's a really good question. I was having a really deep conversation with someone about this the other day, in terms of James Blake has just released the concept of, I guess, OnlyFans, but for music, right? You pay a monthly subscription, you get access to a library of content, and that would be from your favorite artists, snippets from the studio, throwaway recordings, whatever.
It's like, just all the content,
so you pay $5 or $10 a month and you get access to all of that. And it's more of like a status update quote thing, right? The concept of, distributing your music and all that kind of stuff, I think, it's hard because it comes from a point of view of like, you need to, what was the question? Sorry.
No, it was about the value of like formal education in music and production.
Sorry, I was thinking about something else.
No, that's okay.
When I went to do the course, I was previously looking at YouTube videos, all that stuff. By the end of the course, it was fantastic to be able to go in there, understand the technical side of it, sit in the room with people who are doing similar things, understand the lecturer and just the basic music theory side of it. But by the end of it, it's not necessarily exclusive to what you want to do. So I went in there being like, hey, I want to maybe produce a rap track or a techno track. And you're always steering slightly away from that. Long story short, by the end of it, I think I just ended up finding myself on YouTube and teaching myself anyway. I think it's important to do some formal education. And I think especially when it comes, for me, my story is a bit different. I've done my AMEB exams and that kind of thing. My level of music theory, I think, is quite solid. But if you're someone who's just getting into it, having that formal education, I think, is really important. And again, for me, like, I don't think it's a snobby thing, but I think if you're going to get into the music industry and you're going to start doing that, you really need to invest some time into the skills that are behind that. Learn the scales, learn the key signatures, learn the music theory that's behind it, because at the end of the day, you can have a really basic knowledge of that, that's fine, but I feel like you really need to just involve yourself in what music actually is fundamentally, and then just explore from that.
So regardless of the genre of music you want to get into, you would argue that fundamental music theory is still important. And
I think overall, like, you can argue, like, there's people like Pharrell Williams and other people like that who didn't go into music knowing an instrument or maybe the music theory behind it, but they have a really, really good ear. Those are people that you're never going to be able to stop them from making music because they enjoy it and they have a really great ear.
I think as well, touching on that, like, I think personally, like, being in my third year studying music at uni, like, sometimes I think about it, I'm like, damn, have I wasted my time, like, learning music, because I've been doing music my whole life. But I will say, like, in my almost like finishing my course, like the level of music which I'm making right now is completely different and a million times better than the level of music I was making when I was just finishing school.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, man, you have like kids who are like 15 years old, sitting on FL Studios, who know nothing about music theory, who can make a beat in 15 minutes, and then like Playboy Cardi will hop on that beat. You know what I mean?
And that's
it's just so crazy right now, because it's like, yeah, you can make music.
Is that a common thing though?
That's super common. Like a lot of like the big producers that you hear, and it's like when you have like, for example, like Playboy Cardi will get in the studio, Starboy or whoever like his head producer will have the beat, but then the beat that's been made is made up of like a bass line made by some dude in like Europe, the melodies made by some dude in Australia, the drums made by some dude in New Zealand.
Wow.
And then it all gets put together, and then there'll be all these beats put together. Playboy Cardi will hop in the studio, he'll go to like Nick Mira, right, play some beats, and then he'll drop like 20 songs in one night. He'll make 20 songs, and then that's his job. But it's like the thing with music is like so many people, like you can learn music theory, and like knowing music theory and knowing how stuff technically and actually works will help you way more in understanding. But you genuinely don't even have to know any of that. Like there's dudes out here, like I can study music theory. I could stay at uni for like 6 more years, get an honors, get a master in music.
Really?
And then
Wow.
there'll be
and there are
dudes,
people that do that?
Yeah, but then there'll be dudes who are like 16 years old who know nothing about music theory, who make like
I think it's contextual to obviously like what you want to get into.
Yeah, but it's just what you're trying
Well,
to like.
the reason I ask
making-
is
yeah.
in my head it's like I don't know. I had this idea that studying music is kind of like studying business at uni, where like a lot of people say it's a useless degree.
Right.
Because like you can't really learn business. It's like it almost like it's a gut feeling.
That's right. I feel like, I mean, I have no formal like music training at all, and like 100% agree what like these guys have just said, because 100% it makes sense, and your understanding and knowledge is so much more progressed and deeper than someone that wouldn't have any, that doesn't have a theoretical background or things like that. But I also find that there is the less you know, there is a particular quality and value that comes with that as well, because I can't apply it for music, but I can apply it for my digital media and like for photography. And it's sort of, there is, when you don't know something, you're just going purely based off your intuition and what you feel. And I think when, the more you learn and observe and everything, that just contributes to the perspective that you're creating through. So obviously, bro, that shit's so important. Yeah, but there is like a value for what I see a complete value in that. Like how Sam said with his kids, they'll be like 14, 15, 16, whatever, hopping on FL, and they have no idea what they're doing, but they're just producing whatever they want, just purely based off their ears and what they feel, and I think that's dope. So man. I think that has like
it is cool, and it all has its like pros and cons, and it is again contextual. Like I guess the reference they're referring to is like rap beats, and like these dudes are able to produce a beat in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But I think at that point it's more of a formula, and if you're able to understand the sounds that exist within the realm of music that you're trying to create, you're probably going to be able to get to a point where you can just understand the sounds in that.
But even with like recording, you say, right? No, I'm saying like even with like recording, like I was thinking about it the other night. Just every year that you get older, you're exposed. You just live more life. So you've had more. You're influenced by more things. Your perceptions of the world have been shaped more. You're influenced by a whole lot more things, just purely based on time. Whereas if you're younger and you have less time to be influenced by things and, be told what isn't and isn't cool, you just have less of an understanding. So I feel like you're more true to just your own intuition and what you want to do.
And I think
I feel like there is like a unique value that that purely just is like the younger you are and the less exposure and time you have to form your perceptions on not only the world, but music and like for production or what I'm supposed to, my lyrics and how I'm supposed to record and all those things.
I feel like there's also a beauty of being someone that's older and experienced life, but then observing the creation from someone who's 14 just going out, because like they have no idea.
Yeah, they're just doing what they want to do.
And you see the freshness and you see the passion.
Yeah.
And yes, it's probably not as polished.
Yeah.
But there's a beauty in that. There's a unique beauty in that. It isn't polished, and it's just authentic and raw.
Like,
and
the thing is as well through everything is like, I say what I say before about having, needing to know a basis of music. It's not needing to know it, it's having the willing to know it if you need it. And I think like these 14, 15-year-old kids, they're still sitting there making it. Maybe they don't know it, but if someone's like, hey, give some constructive criticism, they're not going to shut it out. They're going to take it on board and be like, all right, maybe I do need to do this, or I don't, But it's just that willingness to be able to do that, because anyone can sit there and just, open up Splice, pull out some loops that are all in the same key, and then boom, you've got a track that sounds cohesive. But it's just about showing appreciation to the art. And I think if you just have willingness to... You're making music every day and you're listening to stuff, and obviously through everything you do begin to understand the theory, and for some people that's just how you do it. But I think just the point I'm making is that I think everyone who does music should appreciate it. Yeah. And I think from what I've seen so far, everybody does.
And nothing's bad.
No,
that's the other thing. Like nothing's
you gotta be
bad,
careful,
bro.
I mean, like, there's some. If you're talking about like Slim Jesus or someone, bro, that's bad.
Yeah, even I can fuck with that.
But
to a level,
bro, there's still people
like
you could fucking say nothing on a track and just make sounds. And I mean,
that's music, though. I guess that's
I probably
art.
wouldn't listen
That's
to that.
art,
But there's enough people in the world
that
will resonate with.
But
what
I mean,
you're
man,
doing.
you listen to like Aphex Twin, like back when, Aphex Twin, like that shit. I remember when that would have come out, people would have been like, "What is this?" But now it's like
collection of sounds.
Well, anyway, I was gonna ask. I mean, obviously, from what I understand, you all have a lot of experience in this industry and been around for a while, especially in Adelaide. Could you maybe identify some of the trends you're seeing in your industry and maybe look a bit into the future and see where it's going in Adelaide?
I think it's in Adelaide.
Oh, I mean, you can say globally as well, but I'm also interested in Adelaide.
In globally, because I think I'll say globally, because I feel like that will impact Adelaide a lot, what's happening now. But I think now my biggest issue with like making music and being like a musician right now is just like TikTok and Reels and streaming. Like everything's just so all over the place. Like back in the day, like in the early 2000s, if you had your song like number one on the radio, like in the 90s, you were going to be making bank, or someone's making bank. But it's like now you're getting paid like 0.01 of a cent per stream.
I just think like the importance of music has like, maybe not the importance isn't the right word.
It's just so saturated. There's so much music.
It's saturated, but you think about like, bro, if you were, you go and you wanted to buy a vinyl, bro, you like the artist, but you haven't heard any of the songs on the vinyl.
Yeah, right.
You got to go out to be prepared, go to the store, wait in line, buy a physical vinyl, bring it back, and then you listen to it.
Now you just go on Spotify.
You're listening to it, you're taking it in for what it is. Whereas now it's like, everything's so accessible. Spotify, people listen to the first 5 seconds, like it's as simple as that.
I think
it takes no time.
The trends is just, I don't know. I think we're at a point in time where it could either be like really beneficial for the industry, and if it's done in a way that does benefit artists, it probably can be beneficial. But I think at this point in time, there's obviously a lot of other outside factors that are involved, and it's not just opening up TikTok and listening to a track. That's not necessarily the purpose of why you're on the app to begin with, but that has allowed millions and millions of streams to then be generated. But,
I guess where it came from, I mean, just observing and reflecting, where it came from is I see this trend of where an artist will create an entire album and 99% of people will just take one song in that album and then 10 seconds of that song, and they'll only know that much. So, but then TikTok came out and people thought, wait, why make the entire album? I'll just make the 10 seconds.
Exactly.
Make the 10-second track.
Bro, like when you go to festivals and like, they'll book an artist and an artist will have like one song, or like, maybe they have a few songs that went viral on TikTok, and bro, for the like 10 seconds that is a chorus, everyone's like, going crazy, and then the chorus finishes from the TikTok snippet, and then it's silent.
No one knows the rest of the words.
I think
where does that fit in relation to you actually appreciating and digesting and enjoying the music for what it is? If you're only enjoying it because you've heard it 50,000 times on a TikTok sound. You're not spending the time to actually.
I think the shit's silly as well, because it's like now, like every song you hear is just like so many songs I've heard in the past 6 months have just been like remixes, or like the beat is just a remix of like a song from the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like that whole
lot of remix
that,
tracks.
like, you know that Greedy track by like Tate McRae, like that one that went huge. That track is literally just like a Timbaland and Nelly Furtado song. Like the boom, 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 boom. It's just that bass throughout. And then there's like 2 other songs from that era which are sampled in there. But then it's like, bro, if you're a record label, you know, you got a girl who's really good at dancing, good stage performance, good singing. You know, they put her on, they make her this song that has like 3 really big pop songs from like 20 years ago. Man, obviously that shit's gonna blow up because it's like it's recognized.
Yeah,
you hear the.
But that's the thing though. Like I went to the Queen rock show at the Fringe, and like I'm there. Like it's a like all the Queen songs, right? And I'm there and I'm just looking at like generations of people that have grew up on this and just still love it. Like this was a long time ago.
Because bro, they had to go get the album. They had to listen to the whole thing. They heard the entire album. They know the whole thing.
Or it's like when
they
you hear
don't know a 5-second snippet of one song's like one artist song.
Exactly.
Like,
but then I'm thinking like if I look at 30 years from now, like who is memorable in 2023?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like, who are they going to remember?
But that's the
like
thing.
that,
It's like I don't know. I think that's where. Obviously, we're conscious of it, but I think that's where the music industry as a whole needs to kind of be like, all right,
I think, man,
if we want the
just,
longevity of it, it's memorable for people. That's why Queen is, as big as they are right now, and it's the same with even Nirvana and all these people.
It's just so dumb.
So short. It's people just want that dopamine fix, and it's
so annoying because I'm in the studio with my band and I'm trying to make a track. And when you're making songs like that, if it's like sort of like a reggae or like a rock track, you kind of want the instrumental to sit for a bit, like you want to length it out. And then we finish up the file and it's like 4.5 minutes long. And I'm thinking like, well, fuck, I can't put like a song that's like 4.5 minutes long out. And I'm like, why? Like my favorite songs growing up and like all the songs I used to listen to were like 5 minutes. But now I feel the pressure to like.
What is the average time now? Like, is it getting
it
shorter and
like,
shorter and shorter?
Yeah,
it's
it's
because
like,
it's
the good
minute
tracks.
30, bro.
It's a minute 30.
And like,
the
bro,
good
you
tracks
can't
are
have
a
no
minute 30.
intro. Boom, the vocals got to come straight in, straight
That's
away.
the thing, but a
It like
stream,
gets your attention straight away.
a stream doesn't count unless you listen to.
30 seconds.
No, I think it's a minute of the song. It's
No,
like
it's
a
30.
percentage of the song.
30 seconds, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think
so
it differs. I think it differs.
differs, but-
depending
Well, it's
on
probably
what streaming
based on how
platform
long the
actually
song
is.
is.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like if you really got to think about it now, it's like that first like 30 seconds,
Wow,
that first
you
off
feel
the
like-
jump.
Well, you
gotta
need
get
to grab
people
their
engaged,
attention span. It's like reading,
You're
a
trying
job
to beat an algorithm.
resume.
Yeah, but
bro.
that's why making music is so shit now, and that's why like where music's heading and like the music industry is just so dead. It's because it's like, bro, I can't even make what I want to make. Like,
Are there any platforms like not like Spotify, but obviously other than Spotify that I don't know, better in that sense?
I'd say
I
my
mean, it's just
favorite-
like the James
Yeah.
Blake
I'd
thing
say,
that's
yeah,
been
that main
announced.
thing,
But
yeah,
I don't
like
know how
that.
that's going to
I'd
play
say
out.
SoundCloud is probably one of my favorites. SoundCloud is
Do you
kind
get
of
paid
dead.
on
You don't
SoundCloud?
get paid.
Yeah.
You don't get paid.
Nah,
but
if you get the plus
SoundCloud-
thing,
Yeah.
you do.
But
like, no,
SoundCloud,
like,
you'd get
unless you're
mad
already a
plays.
signed artist,
Streaming
like,
is
you're
not how
getting
you
that
make money
plus.
Yeah,
from
you
music.
don't make any
It's
money from
doing
streaming.
shows, it's
Yeah,
merch, it's
Yeah, sure.
all the marketing stuff.
Touring and the merch is where the money's at.
Well,
all the
we-
money.
Music, it's not even like music is music now. It's
Unless
like
you're
music is
independent,
business.
unless you're independent.
Yeah, music is business, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like you got to think about shows, you got to think about merchandise. Like, it's not about like, okay, if I have this really good song and I drop it and it gets big, I'm gonna get money. It's like, no, if you have a really big song and you drop it, you're probably gonna get like $40.
And like, I feel like it's not just even about the music now. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard from multiple sources that, from like record labels' perspectives, if you're not like putting the work in and doing TikToks or whatever, like they're looking for a performer.
Yeah.
It's more than just how your music sounds. You need to be the entire package with a performer. You need to, present yourself in this way, be funny in this way, look this way, do this. You have to be this entire package.
If you're like
which
quirky
is
and look a
majority
bit
of the
different,
time manufactured.
And that's the whole thing with it.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
very manufactured in a label sense.
By the
but I
label
guess
sense,
that's what
yeah,
you're
because they
saying.
know, this is what we want you to do. This is the niche you're gonna fit, and to do that, you've got to look like this, perform like this, making music like this. Your
But I think,
Instagram's got to
yeah.
look like this, and extends to everything.
I think that's the thing though. At the end of the day, and the thing that I realized, like, as I got older, like, I remember growing up, like, being like, oh man, I want to go to America. Like, New York would be so dope. And then it's like 2023, and it's like, bro, I don't want to fucking go to America. Like, they're all crazy. It's like, it's like, why would I go to America?
I mean,
like,
now it's different because it's just like.
But with the music industry, bro, it's like you grow up like wanting to make music, being like, yeah, man, I want to get a record deal and I want to blow up and I want to go to LA. And then it's like now, it's like, bro, all of that shit is so manufactured and all of it's so evil in a way.
Yeah, and bro,
who would want to be a part of that? Again,
there's people say you could pick like a random person off the street, like they have enough vocal like processing now. You know, if they have a good producer, they link you up with a producer. Bro, you can literally pick anyone off the street.
Anybody could be the next big thing.
And then, bro, they can fully manufacture it. But that's where the whole like industry plant thing sort of comes in. And
I don't know. This is the whole issue with the music industry. Like fundamentally, is the whole confusion of where exactly it is that you can actually make money, and it's all just a grey area. And that is, I think, piece by piece, you just have to keep like changing that, and you have to keep evolving. And if you can stay independent, stick to yourself, and have a set form of passive income or something around you that is bringing that money in, then you're able to still do that whilst doing the things that you want to do. But it is a massive grey area.
I am very conscious of time. And I had one more question to ask you. And it's usually how we end the episode. So I wanted to ask you, who is a local role model that you kind of look up to, that you kind of, essentially that you kind of look up to, that has played a big part in your life? Not someone global that everyone knows, but it could just be a friend or somebody that you're like, I do look up to that person and try to emulate them in certain parts of my life.
Yeah, I mean, like, I try and be like consistently an individual to myself, but there's a lot of bits and pieces from people in Adelaide that have really stood out. Yeah, there's probably three people right now that I look up to, just close friends. Yeah, Aiden, who runs Pure Ink, Logan, who runs 297, and Rashab, who runs Scumbag Studios. All three of them are people who have found their niche and have really excelled at it, but they've completely stayed true to themselves regardless of being in Adelaide or a different place. These people as well have been completely accepting of what it is that I've done. I mean, Aiden I've known for a lot longer than Logan and Rashab. So seeing Aiden to be able to come to fruition and evolve into the business that he's got now is incredible. You obviously take a lot of bits and pieces from that, and there's positives and negatives that you see and advice that I'm able to get along the way. So that's fantastic. But from a creative standpoint and being shown, hey, these are some opportunities that you can do in Adelaide, and having a core group of people around us that are fundamentally like-minded. I mean, I say it to the other guys, but we're the powerhouse.
That's amazing.
And this is it's a really important time for one, Kargo, but all the other creatives that we're working with in Adelaide, because with our growth, we're able to help other people grow, and with their growth, with our closer group, we're able to all excel and help each other up in that. And it's just come from almost desperation of wanting to be successful, and just butting your head up against a brick wall and being like, well, what do I need to do to make this work? And I know Aiden's been doing this for 10 years now. And in the last, 3 or 4 years, he's found a lot of success, but it doesn't happen overnight. And in Adelaide, that length of process is extended out. So if you're able to, look up to people, and I think something that's I'm quite good at is just being able to see and maybe take notes from where people have messed up or they've really excelled, and just try and take some of that and use some of those pointers while consistently being criticized constructively, I think, and those guys have allowed me to do that. So that's me.
What do you guys, do you have anyone?
Well, definitely my brothers here, like Alex, like big bro. Well, I've known Alex for a while, and Alex is just kind of, bro, me and Alex just get along, and it's the same with Ethan. Like, I've known Ethan since we were like 9 years old. So it's like everything I've ever done, I've done with this guy. So it's just like, these are definitely two people who it's like, not only like people who I work with, like on music and creativity and like videos and like whatever we're doing, like business wise, not only people who I work with, but people who are like genuinely like my closest friends. And then definitely Aiden, because I've known Aiden, I was buying Aiden's clothes when I was like 13, way before I knew him. So it's like, for me to be able to like be homies with him now and call him one of my closest friends and like learn from him is just like crazy for me growing up, like inspired by him. And then also like Aiden and Cooper from the store as well, who run Ill Fated.
Matt.
Like, yeah, Matt, Aiden, Cooper, and Matt, all the boys. But yeah,
sounds like you have a really good community.
Yeah,
like,
well,
it's really not like,
yeah, this is just
individual
But
game.
just know that like this has taken hard work to get.
Yeah,
like
but it's
Adelaide
just
has
been
not allowed
locked
us
in.
to be that until today.
Yeah,
and I think that's why,
and
like,
we've just consistently just grouped together.
And that's why we're so
back.
close. Like that's why we're all so close with each other, because not only had we like formed like bonds through like doing events and like making clothes or just like doing business together, we like genuinely formed like friendships for life and like just brotherhood, not to sound lame.
I mean, I think it's all from hardship, you know, like experiencing that hardship.
Yeah, experiencing that shit together and like going through shit, like doing stuff and then have it going completely sideways and then sitting down with everybody and being like, well, fuck, like how do we come back from this? And then you just keep pushing and then you get into like positions where we are now, where we're all feeling comfortable. But no, I still love, I love all the guys, all the homies. And it's just good being around, like, I think my number one thing is especially like to be around people who are a little bit older than me, doing the exact same stuff and just genuinely being able to learn and grow in environments where I feel safe and in environments where I genuinely look up and respect everybody who I'm around.
Is not just for music. I don't, that is some
that's,
great advice, just
that goes for
general
everyone.
life advice.
But that's like, it's not even music, man. The stuff that we do turns into like event planning, like merchandise, making clothes, like meetings, like it's like Kargo is like a business. So it's like when you're doing stuff like that, and when personally I think about my future, I'm like, well, where do I want to be in 4 years with all this? It's like, I feel so comfortable knowing I'm around a support system of dudes who are just like in the same boat, who I'm like love, who I would like not die for. That's a bit dramatic, but maybe we'll see. It depends on the situation. But no, just people who I genuinely love and care about. Is like all the people I work with. But
yeah, I mean, bro, pretty much like the same as what they said. I think we all got like a pretty tight knit community of people that we all just rely upon and, you know, bounce ideas off each other. So, I mean, yeah, all the names that those guys mentioned as well as just like the younger dudes that are those dudes inspire me. Like there's a videographer like called Ziggy.
Like 17,
and he's like just going crazy. Just like, I think the main thing like across the board is just surrounding ourselves with people who are like working. And you know, just like working on their craft, no matter what it is, that are just busy, like just like locked in. But
they all
got
good morals.
You surround yourself in that environment is just encouraging to work, and I think it is like it's the friendly competition of, you know, like 100%. You know, if I'm like Sam sends me some tracks and I haven't recorded none, I'll be like, fuck man, I need to like pick my shit up, you know, and do this, or you know, Alex is sending me this. I'm like, damn, I've been slacking, or like, I'm sure it's reciprocated in the same way as we do this, and it just is like constant reminder and just being in that like healthy environment of people who are working, and they're just encouraging to work. Like,
so good.
But I do want to say like, just thanks to everyone that has like supported us with everything, because we're talking about like our close group of friends, but there's a crazy larger network of people who have spent money on us, you know, come to our events.
And as much as it's like, like, you know, Kargo is like our thing, whatever, and we've sort of like, we have built it from the ground. Like there has been, it's not just like, there has been a lot in the past that has got to this point, you know, and so many people that, like older people than us that have supported us, or just even given us opportunities to do shows or open for them or do things like that. Like that all contributes to where we are today.
I think that's the thing, man. I think the biggest, like one of the last things I'll say is like, in terms of like doing anything, whether you're trying to do creative stuff, like business stuff, whether you're just trying to like do something with yourself, like so many people, like it's so easy to do some shit for a bit and then be like, nah, that's too hard and stuff. But it's like, man, we've been doing this for 2 years, and it's like now we've had so many ups and downs, and it's like we're only like 2 years into this, and it's like now we're sitting here like in a nice ass room doing a podcast.
Twice, you know, the whole team's changed. We've gone through people, and
but it's like
it's just that thing that evolves, and you get to that final point.
It's like everybody says it, but just work. Like,
but I think you
got
to
keep working. Like no matter what, bro. Like even if you know you put in work for 20 years,
and when you don't know the answer, go and
benefits.
Seek it out, because like that was a huge thing for me that prevented me. I will shout out one more person, Dwach Sire, who runs Rin Models. That's like big homie to me and big mentor in this field, but we'll sit down every so often, and he's got a lot of experience in Adelaide, you know, managing people and finding success for people where they may have not been able to find it for themselves, especially with minority groups. So yeah, it's really important to have that network, and if you can constantly seek it out, the growth and the change is always going to occur.
That's the thing. You just got to keep going. Like even with Aiden, like Aiden was doing his shit for 10 years, like just printing in with his own like clothing label, and then he was printing like all the way up in like McLaren Vale, and now he runs like a store in the Maya Center, and he's about to open a warehouse.
And even our shit, bro. Like you know, five years ago, or whatever. Like then I'm nowhere near where I would have wanted to be 5 years ago, but. You don't change shit. Like I'm just, you know, you just keep going, bro. Like you just gotta keep working.
I guess like, that's 5 years ago. We probably had like 0 streams and you know,
doing nothing.
What are your streams now? Like how many are you getting?
I mean, like we just had a number 2 on Triple J on Earth for like a week.
Wow, really?
And that was a track we did.
This guy, he got the Skin on Skin remix last year.
Skin on Skin remix, yeah. I mean, Ethan's got some tracks that are like 200K plus streams. I mean, the recent stuff is doing well. We got consistently, like 45, 50 people listening to our tracks every day.
Every
like
day.
a 7,000 monthly listener.
But that's the thing though, man. That's like, we think about that, and we're like 45 people a day.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, people out here getting like 1 million people a day. So it's like, you know, you
so much room to go.
You got to keep going.
That's still motivating.
It is motivating.
Like people are watching.
It
is crazy, man.
People are showing up
slowly.
I mean, it's just like when you sit in a room and there's like 6 people sitting in here, it's like that's only 6 out of like 45, and you just put that number into a contextual value.
Yeah,
but it's not crazy.
Yeah,
like every day.
One of our videos did really well, and I think at the time it was like it was like 100,000 views or something.
Whoa!
But then my sister goes, Pigeon, that's crazy. You got more views than Taylor Swift got at the concert. I'm like, put it like that.
That's the context. That's the thing. Like, sometimes if I'm like talking to people and you know everyone goes ups and downs, and if I'm down a little bit, I'm being like, then you have the people around you that'll be like, oh well, if you imagine X amount of people standing right in front of you, or you're doing a show and there's X amount of people there, like. It's
it's easy if it's just a number on your screen, but think about
especially
it.
when you get used to it, like you sit and not used to it, not to put like
But I mean, like we've gone from performing in like in front of 30 people to we've done some shows where there's been like 200, 250 people involved, and figuratively seeing that number in front of you is a massive change.
They took time out of their day to just like. All show up at the same time.
And pay the money, and show up.
Bro. Like, me and Ethan like always talk about it. Like, we always link up like once a month and just think like, damn, bro, like what the fuck have we been doing? Like, cause sometimes we'll do a show over the years, or we'll just like have something happen, like an event, and it'll be like, damn, like we're actually doing this shit, but then you still have so far to go. But I think that's all my main message I'm trying to say is like, if you're doing something creatively, it's like, bro, just keep going. It could be like 10 years, it could be 12 years.
Bro,
like, you never know. But if you're working consistently and you're enjoying it, well, not all the time, but if you're consistently doing something, like, bro, it'll happen.
So we're actually going to skip a bit forward in time here. After we finished recording the session, Mark, one of our co-hosts, actually asked a great question to these guys about the Fringe in Adelaide and its role, and they had a great answer to it. So we're actually going to just play that clip before we finish off the session.
The Fringe overall, I mean, you look at it from an economic and even the demographic that comes to Adelaide for that period of time. We sold like 1 million or 1 billion tickets, whatever that number was last year for the Fringe, right? Billion tickets. There's a lot of people coming. I think they made $1 billion worth of tickets, sorry.
Wow,
and so it's all these, there's a shit ton of money coming in for that time. It's fantastic that artists are able to charge a bit more. if you're talking about 10 years ago, it's obviously the Fringe has brought and has been something that has evolved and brought a lot of people to Adelaide and then expanded people's opportunities beyond overseas. And I guess 10 years ago, the Fringe was probably more of, you know, less quality over, there was probably less quality over quantity and less people involved who actually had really, it might have been more of like a Fringe show, you know what I mean? More what you would experience in the garden as opposed to an actual Adelaide festival show. I can speak about this personally because my grandpa is someone who has done this. Oh. So he is a 70-year-old man now who thinks that he owns the world, right? And so this guy decided to teach himself the double bass and then was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go and run a Fringe show. This guy books his house, has people come to his house during the Fringe and does his Fringe show. He's then like, all right, I'm gonna go and take that to Edinburgh, and did the Fringe over in Edinburgh. Yeah. So for people like him,
Fringe.
Yeah, you know, it's fantastic that people like him at the age of 70 can go and be a part of it. This was recent.
Oh,
this was in the last few years. So like,
amazing.
I know the process to become an artist and a performing artist in that has probably become a bit more scrutinized. I doubt he would get let in now. Yeah. He did good. But for him to be able to go through that, play in front of an audience, break even, that's a massive checkbox on his, you know, to-do list for his life. And I think that stems down to everyone, whether it's, you know, a street performer or it's someone who has really created something. My grandpa was telling me he went to a show during the Fringe where it was a job interview and you would go and you would do the job for 30 or 40 minutes. So there's, you know, and then you would leave it. So there's obviously a lot of avenues within the Fringe where you can experience creativity. So I think overall, it's a very positive thing. And I think for the future, it's going to allow more people to do a lot of different creative things and have a central place to be able to make some money every year and then hopefully be able to travel around the world doing that. I think from the whole economic and, you know, social point of view, I think they milk it a lot. The drink prices are insane. I think some of the ticket prices are fucking through the roof. That is something that the government needs to deal with, and that's obviously them seeing the benefit of X, Y, Z from the Fringe, which is fine, you know. But I think it takes away the importance of what the Fringe actually is. You know, you're doing it at a time where Mad March already exists. You've got we've got the WOMAD, you've got the V8 supercars, all these other things that are bringing in capital, where I think you could probably lower the price a little bit just to be able to make it more affordable. I personally didn't go to the Fringe this year. I probably could have saved up a bit of money and gone, but it wasn't really an incentive to go per se. Having said that though, shout out to the Fringe for putting on heaps of free stuff that people can go to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think the Fringe, I don't know, I don't go to the Fringe too much because like you said, the drinks and like the prices there are a bit like, you're dropping, like
it's like $200 on a night just going out with your girl or whatever.
I went out there with my girl and it was like a $300. Like, and it's it's not cheap. That's a paycheck right there. But yeah, I think it is good though. I think it does a lot for the city. And I think it definitely is probably
the second biggest Fringe in the world.
Yeah, it's probably one of my, I don't know, it's my favorite time of the year, like when you pull up and you walk down Rundle Street.
Exactly.
Like it's a good vibe, but I think there is like some smaller problems, more on the economical side. Another issue I have was like the creativity side. I think they could bring in, because I know they had that Sanctuary pop up, which was kind of like their play of like, because they used to have the I was a bit too young, but like the Royal Arcade Club, or at the uni, like where they'd have like all the in the cage and stuff, and that would pop off, and that would be crazy. And my older sister would always tell me how much fun it was. But it's like now being my age, like now I've turned 18, like none of that was really there. Like when I turned 18, I'm 20 now. And even so, like they had a couple events this year. But what we were saying is like these events, which are like sort of like techno and like sort of trying to bring the young people in, are cool. And I think it's definitely what the Fringe needs to add. But I think the event organizers and the people that run those are like super old, want a lot of money. And it's like not really about the culture. Because it's like if we were to do something like that, our main goal would be to be more about the culture, more about the experience, less about the money. But I feel like that's the music, like the music is the mindset. But I feel like with these people running those events, they're older and they're more corporate. Like they're more like, how can we get money?
I think
the numbers. I just want to add like one thing as well on like regarding the Fringe is that obviously like the Fringe is awesome. I love the Fringe. you see some crazy wacky shit, you see some awesome shit. But I think the only, like, one of the downfalls is that I think it sort of frames a lot of people's mentalities of like, all right, like it's, you know, especially in Adelaide, like, oh, it's Mad March, there's so much going on, it's the Fringe, and then it's done.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing.
And then people's like, you know, their whole mindset is like Mad March, and you know, everyone's so keen to go and see shows and do that. But then as soon as the Fringe is done, then it's just no one carries those thoughts over, and which then it makes it harder for like the rest of those performers and events and organizers to continue doing those things because just of the way it's sort of posed of like, it's Fringe, it's on now, you know, it's for the month. And then it's done, and then everyone's like, oh, it's done until next year. Like, we're not going to see any shows or see this until next year.
Yeah, that is a really good point. There's nothing really else that happens.
I mean, you got
But it's also, I mean, you can make the argument that that's what makes it special because people
I would agree. I would agree with that.
Oh, and it's still so, bro, like all the international people that come over, fly over.
They probably wouldn't be able to make as much money
so
from it as well if it was spread out, you know.
But for like, I was more talking in relation to like the South Australian population of just, it's like Fringe time, see all shows, and then, all right, we've done that for the year.
Yeah, bro, that's when it gets depressing, bro. Like winter comes after the Fringe.
And then
the uni's on, and then you're just like...
everyone enjoys it though, like, you know, rarely do you hear someone go to the Fringe or see a Fringe show, and most of the time it's something obscure or something that they wouldn't generally see. And again, from my experience at least, across the board, people are like, oh yeah, it's awesome, like we had a great time at the Fringe, But then like, if it made you feel so good, why would you not want to continue and actively pursue seeing those things? Like, just because the Fringe isn't on, those events are still happening, but like maybe they're just a bit harder to find.
Yeah, exactly.
And
a large thing that comes from allowing the Fringe to even happen is the basis of like the Music Development Office and grants and you know, money coming from the government and funding to allow these things. I think one thing that they should do a little bit more is, I mean, you look at like Side by Side and the Sanctuary thing and all those things that have kind of happened, but there's also multiple other people that are running really successful party events. And I think one thing that could be whether it's a cool idea or something that I think I just observed would be, you know, a good idea is pulling together the creatives that exist within Adelaide more than what it currently is, and not looking at the people who have formed a relationship with the grant bodies, and not just going with the people who have maybe had an accepted grant and have received this money. You know, it's about, I think, the application process, and maybe it is. I haven't delved into it as much. We haven't had a need to throw a Fringe event, except for recently we threw one at the Lab in Light Square. That was very different though. We didn't need to go down that path. But I think that's something that I think during that period, whether to make it more busy or spread out throughout the year, I think that funding could either be put out for more people to access or apply for.
I think that's the issue, man. Like there's so much like going on in Adelaide, and you know, there's just so many people like Nausea, who's like an all-led female DJ group, which we did our collab event with for the Fringe the other week. Yeah. For example, they're insane, like super, like crazy DJs, super cool like logos and stuff. They throw good events, like safe spaces. It's like stuff that's happening like every other week in Adelaide, which is so cool. Like even the events we run, it's like stuff like that is happening, but it's like the grants and the people. Like when the Fringe comes around, the people have the money to like fund that sort of style of like techno rave vibe. They'll just give it to like one person, like Sanctuary. Or
I mean, it's like, yeah, we were thankful in the opportunity that we'd ran an event previously at a venue in which now Lewis from Ancient World now works at the Lab and is director of a lot of the programming and events there. Thankfully, we've managed to attain that relationship and then been put in there. But if you wanted to go out and I think do what we did in the Fringe or something very similar, that process to get that during that time would be very difficult.
Yeah, if you didn't have any sort of connection or like no people.
Well, yeah, it's the word of mouth, which is how the most recent Cargo event went with Light. But then other than that, I feel like, and not even that it's necessarily a bad thing, because I think we all understand that, you know, there's lots of legalities and papers and criteria that you need to fit to be able to do these things. But going back to the funding, there could be potentially different processes in place to help enable more things going on, which ultimately I think would be like benefit the city, and yeah, benefit the city as a whole, like economically, but also just for, you know, giving kids and people our age to go and do things rather than, you know, doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing.
Well, I wanted to say an absolutely huge thank you to agreeing
thank you to you, man. You've been an amazing host.
I'm just asking questions.
I mean, like we said, we've never got the chance to be able to talk. And
I think it's the first time sort of doing
and what I think what you'll learn is when you listen to this back, you'll learn a lot more about yourself than you do. It's different just speaking to someone, but when you have it recorded and you listen to yourself speak and articulate your ideas, you learn from yourself as well.
Yeah,
and I can't wait.
I mean, even just hearing myself is a weird concept. Like, you just understanding your public speaking and all that kind of stuff.
Man, you could be on.
I really love to listen to it and be like, oh, so fucking stupid.
I'll put it on.
No, you guys did amazing.
But yeah, no, thank you so much. We said this off air, but yeah, this shit's really professional. And
bro, you could be on.
Hopefully we can. Yeah, hopefully we can come through again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.